By the end of this training, you will be able to script and automate AWS services using AWS Tools for Windows PowerShell. Write your own self-healing PowerShell scripts. After this brief video, please take the hands-on lab at https://run.quicklabs.com. Hi Jen, I've recently moved a few Windows-based applications to AWS, and I was wondering whether I could script some of my deployment and maintenance tasks using PowerShell.
Hi John, I'm glad you asked. Yes, AWS provides just what you need with the AWS Tools for Windows PowerShell. You can automate many AWS services through your PowerShell scripts. This becomes very handy for Windows administrators because they can manage their AWS resources with the same Windows PowerShell tools they're used to.
Fantastic. So, what can I do with these tools?
In short, you can deploy, manage, and scale most of the AWS services you use through PowerShell. AWS Tools for Windows PowerShell supports over 24 AWS services, including most of the common ones we use every day, such as Amazon EC2, RDS, S3, Elastic Load Balancing, and AWS CloudFormation. In addition, AWS Tools also supports the CloudWatch and Amazon SNS services. This means you can write your own self-healing PowerShell scripts if any service or application fails, and an action should be taken automatically. Let me give you an example. A PowerShell script captures an SNS notification when the backup operation of a database fails due to low storage space. And further, it automatically increases the storage size in the Amazon EC2 instance running the database, and runs the backup operations again. Finally, it also emails the administrators about the issue and the resolution steps that were taken.
That sounds fascinating, but how is security and access control managed for these scripts?
That's a good question, John. I know the first concern most of us have about such scripts is how are they going to access the AWS services with the right access credentials? And how can someone manage the access rights so that these scripts are not misused or used without authority? All commandlets in the PowerShell tools can work with access key, secure key, and token parameters. The token parameter is only used when the access key and secure key are temporary credentials obtained from the AWS Security Token Service. These parameters allow you to specify credentials for AWS identity and access management user accounts that you have created. The credentials can be given restricted access to AWS resources and services. Using these parameters to pass your root account credentials to PowerShell commandlets is less secure and not recommended. That's why Amazon strongly recommends that you use IAM user accounts instead. With IAM user accounts, you can provide specific rights to specific users, limiting them to perform only certain tasks. And now we can also integrate IAM with Windows, ADFS, through SAML. This makes user and access management seamless in a Windows environment.
Who do you think should use this?
Anyone who manages a Windows server on AWS should consider using these commandlets. This not only helps you manage certain regular tasks by firing simple commands or scripts, but it also helps you automate most of your maintenance operations through scheduled PowerShell scripts.
That was a lot of useful info, Jen. I'm going to download the AWS Tools for Windows PowerShell right away and give it a try. The hands-on lab on AWS Tools for Windows PowerShell Getting Started will enable you to set up a Windows Server instance on Amazon EC2 and install AWS Tools for Windows PowerShell. Set up an access key-based authentication. Create, modify, and delete a new Amazon EC2 instance using the commandlets running in PowerShell ISE. Set up token-based authentication. Handle events in PowerShell, and send notifications using Amazon SNS. Please complete the hands-on lab for this video at https://run.quicklabs.com.